Welcome back to Through the Veil with Elle and Camille. I'm Camille.
I'm Elle.
And this is the podcast where we seek to demystify, celebrate, and develop our spiritual gifts all through a faith-based lens. And today, we're diving into the topic of education. How Elle and I even decided to take this route of learning spirit communication, offering sessions. Elle offers a bunch of classes. I have a mini course on my website. How did we take this? Why did we decide to get here? What have we done to learn what we've learned, and what ongoing continuing education are we a part of to keep our gifts and skills sharp?
I think this is a really, really great topic. A lot of people are really curious about it. Like, there's this kind of assumption in the spiritual gifts community, like the intuitive community, maybe, of like, well, you either have it or you don't have it.
Yes.
And it's either going to be fully developed or it's not.
If you don't have it, then just, there's no point in even trying because you either got it or you don't.
Yeah. Which is absolute nonsense. And it is a lifelong pursuit of betterment, just like anything else. Just to sprinkle a little, just lost the word in my brain. To sprinkle in fairy dust of a teaser here. Camille and I have some really exciting news for later on this year. Stay tuned to the end of the podcast where we talk more about what that is. But it has to do with this very topic of development and education. We talk a lot about the beginning of our story, both of us, like how we realized that we had these kinds of gifts. And then we talk a lot about like today, what we're doing with them now. Yeah, and we kind of miss the middle section, which is that messy middle where you're trying to figure out how. And I think a lot of people get stuck there.
Yes.
So that's where we're at today. We're going to talk about the how and what that looked like for each of us, and maybe what that can look like for other people too.
Mm-hmm. So, Elle, how we know like kind of why you got into these gifts. You talked about that a lot, but I do want to hear more about your background in educating yourself to get to the point where you are now. And then I have some questions, some messy middle questions for you. I think people are going to find really relatable, but kind of get us started on how you got started.
Yeah. Like way back in 2016, I was kind of dabbling again in all of these things, and I felt very pulled to come back into this. And it wasn't a good time of my life for that. I mean, my husband was in law school. He had just started the whole 3-year odyssey at his law school. I'm just familiar with that too. They call you a law school widow.
Yes.
It's a lot like medical school, I would guess. It's just a lot of stress, it's very demanding, a very rigorous study for a spouse that's in law school. And for us, we sit at home and we wait alone.
Well, you had kids at the time, right?
I did. I had 2 rambunctious boys, and they were a lot to handle. And so I was kind of in that early mom stage where you're trying to figure out life and trying to figure out how to parent and doing it all by myself. And it was not the most fun years. But, God doesn't wait until things are comfy for you to get things going. And that was the right time. And he made things move. I began to meet people. At the time I was dabbling in like, this is interesting. Like, can this become anything? Can I work with this? And that grappling with that question is like, am I meant to do this? Like, is this something that deserves my time and attention to the degree that I would like to put into it? And I'm not ever like halfway with anything. I'm like 1,010% with anything that I do. And so like I had been reading all the books. I had been listening to podcasts. There weren't as many back then as there are now. I had been, watching the representation of spirit communication and mediumship on TV, which is also not exactly accurate, especially at the time. There are big names out there, like Teresa Caputo was big back then. There was Monica the Medium. There was, I don't think Tyler Henry was about yet. There was John Edwards. There was that cab medium guy.
Tyler Henry was still a teenager back then. He was still a baby.
He was still just a baby. Yeah. So it's like every TV channel had their own thing, and I was I was like, that's my thing. Like that's exactly what I do. Um, but I was very blessed. I would search after it and pray after it, and I felt very strongly that the way other people were doing it wasn't the way I was necessarily meant to do it. But I needed to know the training. I needed to know how to approach handling these things, how to protect myself handling these things, how to engage with it when I wanted it, where I wanted it, and not when I didn't. 'Cause
Yeah, you need
I
to
have
study
things
the
pop in at
mechanics.
night. Yeah, the mechanics. And there is mechanic, just like anything else. There's a skill that goes into it. You might be an incredibly talented musician or artist, but unless you learn how to read music or you learn the techniques behind shading and perspective and how to use a pencil versus a pen or all these different things, like you're never going to go anywhere, even with a lot of talent, right? There's a lot of learning that has to go into it. And I
And ethics
felt
too.
ethics. Oh my gosh.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
that.
I'm in some Facebook groups where people are gifted, but they don't
Oh my
understand
gosh,
ethics.
it's the
And I see
worst.
how it pops up and it's a problem. Like,
Oh yeah,
and
it's
other
always a
people will
problem.
step in that are also like professionals and say, hey, like, don't forget about ethics and that kind of situation because,
Yeah, it's a real problem online. And like with Facebook and things all the time, I see a lot of young budding mediums who will
yes.
come in and they'll try to do readings on Facebook groups or readings over the text directly in the comment on Facebook. And it's like, and then like they don't know when to stop or when it's too much. And grief is such a precarious thing, or people, that kind of desperation you get from wanting to connect is such a precarious thing, and it becomes tricky real fast. And yeah, and having good teachers or mentors in that is absolutely essential. Learning how to handle those things is a much harder thing to do on your own. And even today, I meet a lot of people who had to figure that out without a community of support. And to an extent, I did as well. Um, but just like with any other like occupation, any other area of study, there are people that came before you to learn something so that they could pass that information down to further and make everyone farther along, right? If everybody has to start from zero and go to 50, you never get beyond 50 in your lifetime. There's just not time. So when you can start at like 25 or 30 and then you can get to 75 or 80, right? You take the knowledge that people have already gained doing something and you progress beyond your teachers, right? You become the master. So um, I was very fortunate. I was very directed to the right teachers and the right mentors very early on. And I really feel like the Lord helped me say, okay, this body, this thing right here, I want you to take that. And I want you to let go of some of this nonsense and some of this like interjections of people's personal philosophies and thoughts and things. But it took a lot of work and it took years of time and really dedicated experience. And I'm really picky about the philosophies that I follow. And I had to kind of develop my own compass for how I felt about different opinions and different things. And I studied all of it, everything. Um, Past lives, reincarnation, karma, all the way to like super, very conservative philosophies in it as well. And I think when you can really educate yourself in this field, in this community, it opens you to deeper understanding of the spirit world. And every time you can give yourself a point of reference of growth, like you open your mind to a new possibility of something occurring, it opens your mind to more light, or at least knowing where you're going to stand on something, like what you believe or what feels right to you and what doesn't feel right to you. When all these things are going to be kind of up in the air and out in the open when you're talking about them anyway. And so I think it gave me a really sturdy foundation to go forward. And now that I'm doing this professionally and I am encountering all kinds of bizarre bonkers things,
Yeah.
I have a really sturdy foundation to stand on and nothing is shaky in my understanding of all these things because I have given myself the time and intention to build. So yeah, I think there are lots of really important reasons. And my journey kind of took a wandering path. And some of it, I had a lot of mentors who stepped in. I had a lot of people that I saw practice this in good ways and not good ways. And I saw some people, some mentors of mine took really big falls, public falls where they had mental health issues or they had really public, I don't know how to phrase this, like they obviously had gone too far with some things and they had done that on like social media and taken stands and things that ended up blowing back in really negative ways. Overstretching ethics and seeing how mental health and how your personal health and well-being in your personal life can be negatively affected when you overstep.
Yeah, or even ego gets in the way, right? And you start trying to
Yeah.
predict things, or like not have the professionalism to be able to listen back to the client and be pushy. Like, no, 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 I know what I'm getting. Like that, sometimes people can take that too far. Their ego gets involved and they
Yeah.
start to be more controlling than they should be, right?
Right. And I think with an occupation or even a talent like this, if you don't have other examples or community, you don't know how far to go and when to stop. Like, because there's not rules. There's no real guideposts or obvious markers along the trail. If you're walking it alone and by yourself, it's a much trickier thing. And so I think it's really, really valuable to have role models, to have people walking it with you, to have mentors, to have other experiences where you can compare, contrast, and be like, that might not have been the best way to do that.
So, who would you consider a mentor today?
Like people that I look up to and people that I follow, either in like what they've done for the industry or their personal writings or classes and things like that. I really love Charlie Kelly. He is a British medium and he has an incredible work ethic. He took a lot of like the traditional nonsense about the way spiritual communication has been practiced since like the turn of the century, and he made it very accessible. He made it not about the woo woo or the ritual, but about the like the practice and the intellectual and spiritual connection. And I think that is amazing. And his personal story is really, really encouraging, where he came from and where he is now. And the kind of person and medium he is just, uh, it's encouraging. He's got a lot of resources, and I recommend my students all the time to go check out his YouTube and all of his classes, and his business model. He's obviously in the field for the right reasons and not in it for the wrong ones, which I find commendable. Mavis Patilla is great. She was like the godmama of mediumship. She brought Christianity back into mediumship, and she was an amazing woman who lived an amazing life and has really amazing story. Her book, Droplets of God, is that what it's called? Mm-hmm. Is a really, really great one. It's a really, really great resource. And it is, yeah, she's an amazing person to follow. Suzanne Giesman, who was her protege, one of her main students, is still functioning today. She is also fantastic. Like, she's a spot on person who really knows what she's doing. Incredibly, incredibly gifted. I have done some stuff with Arthur Findlay College. A lot of it also has been learning from watching other people work in other communities that I've been into. So couple of my earlier mentors, people that I took classes with and stuff like that, when I was just kind of getting into it, I didn't know enough to know enough about what they were talking about to like be leery about certain red flags and things, or just to be like, wow, this was a total waste of money. And a lot of times education in this field can get steep really, really quickly. And there might have been some failed investments, but it's all part of the journey too, about where I was going, and to know, kind of like build that radar, that sense of like, okay, this is a correct principle and this is not correct principle. And you kind of gather it all together and like look at the context of the whole that you have and be like, okay, these parts actually aren't at all necessary. We can like just drop them all together and work with these parts that are actually functional, that actually add to what I'm doing here. And so, yeah, early on there were a couple things of people that I followed and I was like, actually, that doesn't serve me well, or that doesn't suit me right. I disagree with their philosophies on a lot of things. But the communities that they gave me access to were incredibly useful, because I had nobody at the time where I was, where I could have discussions with, or compare notes with, or compare experiences with in the learning process. And the community is like, you can't oversell it. It's incredibly important to have people to have those kinds of discussions with who are in the same place as you. And this happens like I was talking to a friend earlier who's a nurse and she's going through nursing school and she's like, everybody else in my life doesn't get it. They don't get where I am. They don't get what I'm doing right now in nursing school. And those relationships are kind of falling away. And it's like, well, yeah, because they don't have any idea what you have to go through every day. And in this field, it's no different, right? Nobody has any idea what you're experiencing all the time. And so
Right.
being around other people, is so helpful.
And that's why we created this community. We created the podcast, we created the Facebook group. We have, the thing we're teasing about coming up that we want to discuss later on the podcast is we want to be able to bring people together who have these experiences to not feel isolated, to feel like they have a community, they have people they can talk to about it. And we're just normalizing this spiritual gift basically in a Christian world.
Yeah. And giving people an opportunity to practice. And this is the thing that I will say about education and development. There is no substitution for experience, and experience happens through practice. You have to do it. You have to exercise it. You have to use it. I always tell people it's like riding a bike. You can look at riding a bike all day. You can go watch the Tour de France. You can see your dad and your brother and your spouse ride a bike. But until you get on the bike and you feel gravity, and you take off the training wheels and you try to pedal down the street for the first time, you're not going to have any idea how the bike is actually ridden. And utilizing intuition is exactly the same way. When you are intentionally putting it into practice, it's a completely different bag of cats. You can read about it all day long. You can watch videos about it all day long. You can take trainings about people who have done it forever. But until you actually get an environment where you are using it, you have no idea what you're doing. And so taking any kind of education where you can actually have application is absolutely essential. Absolutely. Like you will not get anywhere without that.
Right. Because before I took classes with you, it was a sporadic thing that would happen to me that I couldn't really create that opportunity for myself. I could with my son.
Yeah.
I could connect to him pretty quickly right after he passed for a while. But information would flow sometimes at really random times. And so in order to be able to harness that and say, okay, now I've got this person sitting with me and they'd like to connect to their grandmother or whoever wants to come through, I couldn't necessarily just on the spot have that conversation. So you have to learn how to harness it. Otherwise it will only happen to you and you won't be able to maybe give those opportunities to people that want them in the moment, because unless it just, you get gifted with the information, then it's not going to happen. Being able to have some control of the gift is what the training's about.
Yep.
Yeah. Because before I took Elle's class, it was just like, oh my gosh, the craziest thing happened to me today. I was driving down the street and then I got this information from this person for that person. And I was like,
and now
I don't think I'm going to tell him that. That's really random. But thanks anyway. And off I go in my little life,
Yeah. And it's not just that way for spirit communication. I mean, any intuitive gift is that way, right? We have experiences or capacities, maybe tendencies towards information or towards sensitivities. Maybe it's energy. Maybe you feel it. Maybe you see it. Maybe you have kind of like a fundamental understanding of healing or something like that. But until you actually get in to do it, to move the energy, to feel direct the energy, you're just going to be observing it. You're not actually going to be engaged in it. And you want to make sure that you are practicing in an ethical way. You want to make sure that you are practicing in a way that's not going to do more harm than good. And in a way that's respectful to other people and yourself. You want to make sure that you aren't unintentionally taking on things that don't belong to you, or getting engaged in things where you shouldn't be sticking your nose, or you want to make sure that you are operating safely and within the directed guidelines. It's like being, I don't know, this is a weird comparison, but like a pharmacist has a lot of knowledge of drugs, right? But they can't just go dispensing to everyone all the time, everywhere. They have to be following regulations in order to have optimal effective medicine. It's medicine, not a drug in that situation, right? Just like any kind of intuitive gift, you don't want it to become a drug. You want it to be a medicine. And so we have to learn how to function within, the optimal direction of how to use these kinds of gifts. And they've been around for thousands of years, right? And for all of humanity, people have had these gifts and they've had different ways in which they function with them within every culture. And so we live in a beautiful time where we've taken a lot of those wisdoms, and we've kind of distilled them all into kind of similar places, and they're accessible. So I guess finding something that suits you and fits your flow of things, fits where you feel truth sits or goodness sits, is all okay in that sense. Though I have taken a rather Christian bent, and I really do feel like the Lord has directed that very heavily. I think there's good in a lot of places. So the most important thing I would say in practice is, are you adding to the world with the education you're doing? Are you adding to yourself? Are you going to be adding to other people? And actually doing practice with it, getting your hands, your mind, your body engaged. Because you can read all of the books and watch all the videos and do all the online classes, and it will do you zero good except for add to this library of knowledge in your brain that has no outlet for actual
application. Yeah.
Application. Okay, this is a question that a lot of people have that is a real hard one, of like how to take just an interest in this or feeling like you have gifts and then fully moving it over. Like, when did you know you wanted to do this or feel that pull to that calling to take it from like a quirky side hobby into like what you are doing, like a purpose?
Yeah. So before I even studied any of this, I got my certification in life coaching back in 2007. So I knew I loved doing sessions with people. And then after my son passed away, I knew I wanted to move into grief coaching at some point. So I had started working in grief coaching after I trained with Elle. But my intention was never to take spirit communication and put that into grief coaching until there was a month where I had 3 separate readings. One was with Annie Lowe, who Elle mentioned earlier. She connects to angels and delivers messages. She connected specifically to my son. And she doesn't start sessions saying, like, I can guarantee I'm going to connect to a specific person versus like just messages that resonate. So she connected to my son, and she was very emphatic. You are supposed to be doing this professionally. She saw me teaching classes. She saw me speaking. She saw me engaging in lots of different ways with this gift. And I took really good notes on that. And I was like, okay, maybe someday, like I will, but I don't know when. And then Elle was doing a practice circle. And she asked me to be the guinea pig to come and, get readings from people. So I got a couple of readings, and then Elle was the last one. And she said the exact same thing that Annie said. You're supposed to be doing this professionally. I really feel Wesley guiding me to say this to you. You're supposed to incorporate this with your grief work. You're supposed to be offering this. And I was like, okay, yes. Okay, I'm definitely going to at some point. Okay. And then I got another reading from Elisa, who's our paranormal investigator medium friend. And I can't remember the context. I think we were just doing a practice circle ourselves with your group, Elle, like our training group. Elisa is also in that training group with me, and she gave me a reading, and she said the exact same thing, but she wasn't there when Elle said it, and she didn't hear me in my private session with Annie, and she said, you're supposed to do this professionally. You're going to help a lot of people, a lot of parents and other people that have lost kids or anyone. This is supposed to be like, this is like your calling and your career. And it was just crazy how the 3 readings were like such mirrors of each other. So I was like, okay, fine. I got the message, God. Like, I was not comfortable starting out to offer that with my grief work. But after getting 3 back-to-back readings saying the exact same thing, and feeling like that resonate, and I took it to God, I prayed a lot about it, and I felt that big yes, that huge push. And I really felt Wesley strongly pushing me too. And it's interesting because he'd already been passed for probably like 5 years at that point, and I hadn't been feeling him as regularly as I was around that time period. He was really trying to urge me to get into this work. And then after I started getting into it, I felt him really strongly for about the first month I was doing it. And then he kind of like, not like he went away, but he wasn't constantly like encouraging it. He was such a cheerleader, and it was amazing to have him so close to me as I was starting out and deciding I was going to do it. So it was obvious, like the universe, the God was speaking. And so because I got the message 3 times, I took it seriously. Instead of waiting a year or 2 like I thought I would, I just started offering it pretty much within a couple months. I started advertising, like, I'm a grief coach, I'm intuitive, I can connect to the other side, I do spirit communication, mediumship, if you want to call it that. So I started advertising and started seeing clients probably in February. I think it took me about a month to gain credibility in those Facebook groups where I advertise. And one of the first sessions I gave was someone who, I'm not as clairvoyant as some people, Elle. I know sometimes you see like a full face. I saw this guy before the session. I didn't even know why, but I'm like in my house and there's this like almost profile of a Hispanic guy just like showed up when I was in my room, and I was like in my mind's eye, but it was very clear. And I was like, whoa, random. And then I saw him 2 other times and I can't remember where I was. But then I was in that Facebook group I advertise in, and this woman posted about how she got scammed by someone who was pretending to be a medium. And she was so distraught because her husband had just died. And she had like a long Hispanic name, and I was like, I wonder. So I messaged her and I was like, hey, I'm wondering if this guy that I've been seeing might belong to you, because I saw your post today and like I just felt like I was supposed to reach out. And I wasn't pushy at all. I wasn't like, you need to have a session with me. I've seen your husband. I wasn't like being unethical. It was just like this curiosity. And so she posted a picture of him, and I was like, do you have a picture more from like the profile actually? Because I kept getting the exact same profile picture. Mm-hmm. So then she sent me a different picture, and it was the exact same thing he showed me. It was like that picture was what he showed me. And I was like, okay, so I have seen your husband show up. I think he wants me to give you a message. And so she booked a session with me, and it was really beautiful. He had died by suicide, and he told me that he had like been with Jesus and how he was healing. And she was so relieved because she was so scared he was just stuck in hell somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. What a powerful experience that never would have happened had you not followed.
I know. Things. I was so scared. And then I remember I was driving, I think, to my son's soccer tournament. And one of the signs Wesley shows me are hearts. And there's this huge mountain we were driving past. And there was this, I don't know what it was. It was like a rock that was on the mountain that was like a boulder that was like a different shade than the other rocks around it. And it was a huge heart. And I was like, because I was at that moment, I was having my own little panic attack. I was like, am I actually supposed to be doing this? Like, what gall do I have? What audacity to think that I can be a spirit communicator? Like, is that even okay? Like, I grew up in such a conservative Christian way. Like, we don't do this. And then I'm driving and boom, I see this huge heart, and I'm like literally having this conversation with God at the moment. And then I feel Wesley pop in and he's like, yes, Mom, you're supposed to be doing this. I've been telling you this for a few months now. Like, you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. Stay the course. So I was like, okay, stop arguing. I'm sorry I'm being a pain in the butt, you guys. I just like want to make sure I'm not doing the wrong thing.
It's so hard because you really do want to be sure. And that in itself is a really interesting conceptual question of like being sure that this is like your life path, right? What's interesting and what I've learned, and especially have observed very strongly within the past 4 or 5 years, is that there are a lot of people with gifts. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of people with experiences, and we walk ourselves out of them so quickly because of cultural things, because of religious things, because of our own doubts and skepticism. But there's the whole concept here, too, of like many are called and few are chosen. And those ones that are chosen because they're willing to go the distance. They're willing to put in the time and the effort and the faith to keep walking and keep going forward in that darkness, right? It's very, that scripture is from Matthew and from the wedding feast parable. And it's like, they're willing to come and do a hard thing, right? Yeah. And it is a hard thing. It is a hard thing we're doing. But I think as time moves on, we live in a world of a lot of crazy uncertainty where stuff happens really fast and really quickly, and events shift and change, and, wars and rumors of wars and all of the things that we're feeling. And as a human people, I think we're being called to step up to a higher nature of spiritual experience. Like, we can no longer just like slide by anymore. Like, you either step up or you don't. You either make connection with God or you don't. You either live your life in a certain way or you don't. Mm-hmm. And there's no room anymore for like fence sitting. The room is getting smaller.
Yeah.
For fence.
And I also was going to say this earlier. I was doing a session right before this podcast with a mom too. She has 6 kids, and we were talking about her kids and their spirit. I know. And we were talking about her kids and their individual spiritual gifts, because I was connecting to her mom, who was giving me information, her mom on the other side. And it was just like, we need to be prepared, and we need to understand our own gifts so that we can be prepared to raise this next generation who are coming through the veil with
Right.
some of them have such a thin veil. Some of them are these wise old souls. And if we're going
Yeah.
to be able
I
to,
see that a lot.
yes,
So true. Like
especially,
so many children. Yeah.
yes, how can we steer them? And we have a whole separate episode on how to, like, nurture your spiritually gifted children. It's one of our top listened to episodes. I highly recommend listening to that if you're a parent. But how can we lead them if we turn off our own gifts? Like, how can we guide and cultivate our children's gifts and celebrate our children's spiritual gifts and demystify and help them develop if we are blind and deaf to these things? So it's an opportunity to step it up as a parent and be prepared, because I do give readings to people that are like, my kid is so connected to their dad on the other side. This just happened. And it's like, don't you want to be part of that? Like, don't you want to feel like, so we can, as adults, maybe have to work harder, but it's worth it because we don't want to miss out. I don't want FOMO. I want to be part of that conversation.
And how to help them do it in the right way, right? Like, these things are going to happen whether or not you acknowledge that they're going to happen. It's going to be a lived experiences, and it's happening more and more. Like all the time, I find people who are like coming out like, I've seen that, or I had this happen one time, or my kid saw this thing, like averted disaster and saved someone's life because they had a vision or something like that. And it's like, well, how do you teach your child the proper use of something like that, right? So that we can avoid having huge falls and huge mistakes that can actually become harmful to them and other people. You have to know something about it first. You have to be willing to listen to it first, or being able to suspend your own disbelief and have an understanding for something first, right? So educating yourself is really important to educating the rising generation and ensuring that whatever their purpose is, that they will get to use it too.
Yeah.
Faster than maybe all of us who had to struggle harder because we didn't have that culture growing up, right? So yeah, it's huge. It's huge. If you feel that you have a possibility of being helpful with these things, or you feel that you have even an inkling of gift, God can use you. Mm-hmm. With whatever your capacity is, God can use you. Is it your destiny to do this? Do you want it to be? Because he'll use you if you do.
Yeah. And maybe sometimes people don't want to do it professionally, but they still want to have the gift that they can share with like family members and close loved ones. That's great too.
And even if it's just like being aware and paying attention enough to listen when you get the prompting or the voice to go talk to somebody or go smile at somebody or say this thing now, right? Miracles can occur because somebody said just the right thing at the right moment. And you can completely save someone's life, save their mental health, right? Or alter the direction they have drastically. And maybe you never get to find out how that happens or how it plays out, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't happen. And if you have the willingness to be used that way, and you train yourself in the ways and the skills of discernment and paying attention, God will use you.
Mm-hmm. Amen.
Amen.
So this is the question I feel like people can relate to. Has there been times since you've been practicing your gift over the past 10 years, like purposefully practicing your gift over the past 10 years? Is there been times when you feel like your gifts have like waxed or like waned actually? Like there's times where it waxes and times where I feel like, have you ever wondered, like, did I lose my gift? Or like been concerned that like maybe it wasn't as accessible? Like I know people ask this question all the time. Can you lose your gifts? Can you relate to that?
Yeah. And I think a really frustrating argument that people always make is like the times and seasons thing. I hate that. I'm such an active pusher person. I'm like, no, I'm in control of my life, guys. It's absolutely not true. But there are times and seasons where maybe you can focus on it more, and times when you focus on it less, and you have other things that call your attention to it more than other things. And then again, like riding a bike. I mean, I was a missionary in Taiwan for 18 months, and I rode a bike everywhere I went. I got real good at that bike riding in heavy traffic and highly populated areas and some pretty hairy situations. And then I went years without riding a bike. And I had to start bike riding with my kids in the last couple of years. And there are some times where I'm like, am I gonna be able to do all those things that I did right without hands, or balance things on all the places, or like take super sharp turns at high speeds, or all those things on the bike? And I'm like, I don't know, it's been a long time. But when you get back on and you feel the sense of gravity and you feel the sense of balance in yourself, it's almost instinctual because it's become something that's habitual. It's just a native understanding. And I think building a skill with intuition or spiritual gifts is similar sometimes. If you've put in the work and the effort, um, it's part of you. Everything that shifts is you. It's not them. It's not like the gift itself. It's you and your relationship and your perspective of it. And sometimes we have to be reminded of that. Sometimes we have to rebuild confidence in that, but it doesn't actually go anywhere. Like, it's not actually gone. It's just our relationship or perspective of how close we feel to it, or how capable we feel of handling it and engaging with it on purpose.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of that conversation we had with Lorraine on this podcast about dormancy and times and seasons again. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot like that. Yeah. So I would spin these questions back on you, Camille, and I would say, what were the first steps that you took to get started? I think it was like in 2021 where we connected.
Yes.
But how did you take it from like having experiences into being like, I should do something?
Well, my like education really started after my son passed away, and I just dove into near-death experience books because there's a lot you can learn. I read some books that are compilations and they've got like hundreds of accounts. For example, Imagine Heaven by John Burke that has dozens of stories. And then I read other books that were particular to people of the LDS faith, books that were just kind of Christian books that were people of like maybe didn't even have a faith. And so I just dove in. And so I read hundreds of accounts, stories of people. And then
so how did that change you? How did that help? How did that change you?
Wow. That was huge because it just normalized that these people on the other side, they have a life. They're alive. They're not dead.
Yeah.
They're not like sad and like, I have nothing to do. I have no purpose. They feel more alive than ever. It's bustling.
So it shifted your perspective. Like, it opened your mind to the possibility that there's more.
Yeah. And it talks
beliefs maybe.
Yeah. And like sometimes these accounts would get really detailed into how much people from the other side can monitor what we're doing here or come visit us. And it was just like, oh, it just normalized the connection. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I knew I was having tons of experiences with my son, but I couldn't just talk about it all the time with everybody. And so reading these books just normalized it for me. And I was like, oh, okay, so and it would put words to experiences I was having. I'm like, oh, it's like just that time that happened with my son. And so it started to feel more normalized. And then I actually even read like this Chicken Soup for the Soul book about signs from the other side. And that really normalized it too. So I just kind of got my hands on a lot of books about either near-death experiences, the other side, or people having connections. And then that led me to reading a book about some 9/11 families, the victims of 9/11, their families. And they were offered a free session with a medium in New York. Not Laura Lynn Jackson. I can't remember who it was. That was the first time I was like, oh, people have these spiritual gifts and they can use them for good. Like, it's a legitimate gift. I thought it was kind of made up. I didn't know people could actually like give messages from loved ones on the other side and could do it with like a
sketchy like sidecar carnival business.
Right. I was like, oh my gosh. And then I read Laura Lynn Jackson's book Signs, and I was like, another gem of a medium. Like, who knew? And then Tyler Henry's show showed up on Netflix, and I was like, I started watching him because I'd never seen anyone give a reading, and I was like, this guy's actually like legit, and he's got a good soul. I can feel it. I can feel his goodness. Yeah. I can feel his sincerity. I can feel that he's actually connecting to people. And that was wild. And then that was like right around the time I actually had my own intuitive reading. I went to a bookshop where they have readers, and there's this billboard. It's like attached to a restaurant. I've been to the restaurant a few times, and I saw this billboard and I saw the different readers put on the billboard. And I was just kind of like being facetious when I walked past it the first time because it's on the way to the bathroom. And I saw it and I was like, if I actually did get a reading ever, which I know I won't, it would be with this guy, Jeremy. I don't know why, but like, he's the right one if I ever did. And so then like 6 months later, after reading these books, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go talk to Jeremy. And I did. And he told me,
See what this is about.
He's like, you actually have these gifts. You could do what I do. And I was like, I guess maybe I could. He's like, no, you actually could. And I was like, well, I could talk to my son. And he's like, you could do this for other people. And so then that's when I was talking to Rachel, our podcast producer, who told me about Elle. And then it was just like the timing was perfect. So then I took Elle's class. So this puts us into, I think, 2022.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we started talking about it in 2022. I started taking classes with you in 2023. We did development circles. I read Mavis Patilla's book as well. I would consider her a mentor, as well as Laura Lynn Jackson. Yeah. I just had no idea. Like, if you had told me this 8 years ago, like, I would have said, no, that's bad and that's weird. And I will never do that.
Yeah. I think there is like a lot of mental work that goes into preparation for kind of these things. They're not ideas that are too crazy and wild out there, but they are ideas that are kind of foreign to how we typically live our day most times. And I think that's where the dissonance happens with people. It's kind of like, oh, well, that's not possible. Or we have kind of a cultural perception that it can't be positive or helpful or good. It's like the occult and it's scary and dark. But most people have this trajectory of where they experience it and they see good fruit. They feel good things happening, and healing and growth happening in their lives when they find a practitioner who's actually doing this in like a God-led or constructive way, right? Where their intent is good and their heart is good and they're doing it not for themselves, but for other people. And I remember too, like some of the early on experiences I had with this where I interacted with people. We've had her on the podcast, but Annie Lowe was like that person for me because I was heavily struggling. This was back in like 2016 or 2017. And I was heavily struggling with the concept of like, is this good or is this evil? Like,
Yeah.
I need to know.
Right. And I was actually going to ask you about that because there's been different times where you're like, okay, is this still okay? Is this still okay? Again, 3 years later, is this still okay?
All the time I check and I'm like, have I gone too far now? Like, we wandered off course. All the time. I call them my mini check-ins with God. My husband calls them panic attacks.
Maybe it's a little bit of both. It's fine.
But this was one of the first times I'd had like a legitimate reading with someone doing intuitive work. And it wasn't strictly spirit communication. It was more in intuitive life coaching. But Annie sat down with me and she was like, oh yeah, like you need to be doing this. Like, this is like the secret fear on your heart that is a calling to your soul. And
she told me
that
too in my session.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, where do I start? And this is, at the time, it was kind of frustrating to me. I was thinking about this the other day in the car and I was like, I would totally give people the same advice today, having all the experience that I have had since that day. At the time, I was like, well, where do I start? What do I do? I'm interested in all of these things. Like, which one is the right one? And she was like, I see you feeling your way forward with it and do the one that your heart is called to the most. And if you dabble too broadly, you'll never go deep. So find where you want to start going deep. And I was like, it's mediumship. Absolutely. It's mediumship. But I'm the kind of person, I'm like, all of the things.
You're like, but I want to dabble and learn about
But I want all of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I actually did keep with that advice because that is the thing where my soul felt called to, was connection with the spirit world and learning how to utilize that gift, which had been a burden my entire life. And in retrospect, watching how that has played out, it is something I've gone incredibly deep into. And it has also still given me access to many other fields. And I have yet... I will have the opportunities, I'm sure, to explore more broadly into other certifications, but obtaining a level of mastery, if you'll call it that, of more awareness and understanding into how something functions has changed my entire life. And it started with that one session, and I worked with Annie, and I felt the spirit, and I felt it witness the things that she was saying to me, and I was like, this is good fruit. This is good fruit. And that was a motivator for years going forward as I was waiting to see outcomes of what I was doing and be like, okay, am I slipping into Satanism here? Is this really the occult? And not to minimize the fact that I was careful often. I was really careful because you have to be sure that you are being directed to good things and that the outcomes are good and that your motivations for reasons why you're doing these things are good things. But um, yeah, I did have to be sure that I was following the right influences and the right voices for me. But I have seen so many good fruits now at this point. It's like so many of my experiences and so many witnesses I've had from God and from clients and from other experiences have shown me the answer to that. Like,
Yeah.
this is a good fruit. And when used the right way, it is the work of God.
Well,
Totally.
that's interesting. So, yeah, speaking on the topic of good fruit, I did a session with someone today who I knew I'd done a previous session with her before. And I do take notes in my sessions, not always really detailed notes, but I like to have them to look back to if someone schedules another one. So they kind of have this expectation that I'm not starting from square one every time, that like we can
Right.
build. And so I didn't have time to look at my notes before our session. And I was like, it's fine. It like, my gift works either way. Like I'll just have to start from square one a little bit. So, cause it's been about a year since we met. So we jump on the call, we talk, I give her some information that I'm getting. And then her husband comes up, and I guess she told me that in the past he's come up. She's like, yeah, he always comes up. I'm like, okay. And I couldn't quite remember her story until she told me at the end, but she said there was something that you told me last time in our session, about loving my husband that helped me be available and resourceful for him to help get him into rehab for alcoholism. And now he is sober. And I was just like, these gifts can do so much good, because I got that information. I can't remember who it's from in that session, who I connected to for her. But whoever I connected to gave me that information that helped their relationship, that helped him on the path to getting sober. So, and then we've talked to we had Mary Beth on the podcast recently, and being able to connect to her daughter through the veil, she told me has took that grief that was so heavy and it made it lighter. And that burden has been lifted in such a physical way for her. Physically, she feels different. The fruits of this are good. I've had people tell me that they were thinking of suicide, and now that they know they're connected, they don't feel that way anymore.
Yeah.
I've had too many times where I've been kind of like you, where I'm like, am I actually doing this? Is this okay that I'm actually doing this? And then I'll do a session where someone's like, this helped me so much, I can't even tell you. And I'm like, this, and I'll finish the session and I'll go tell Jeff, I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. The evidence keeps coming, and it's so interesting, Ellie, you were talking about making sure you're doing it to the highest good. I haven't told you this yet, but 2 weeks ago, I had a dream, and it was one of those very vivid, lucid dreams. It was just like real life. And you were in the dream, and you were coaching me on giving a reading. You're like, always make sure that you are focusing on the highest good. What is the highest good? So for the past couple of weeks, when I'm sitting in session and I'm listening to what information I'm getting from their loved ones, sometimes there's 5 different directions I could go in. Oh my gosh, let's talk about the dog. I'm getting a dog. And maybe that's important, but maybe the highest good is going somewhere a little bit different. And so it's I'm always focusing on what is the highest good that I can do in the next 30 minutes in this session. What is the best things we can focus on that is going to help this person the most? Because sometimes their loved ones on the other side are willing to chit chat about lots of different things, but I'm just focus on that highest good so we can get the job done to have the best result,
Yeah. I love that. I'm such a good spirit mentor.
You're such a good mentor, Elle. You're even showing up when I'm sleeping. So that's what I'm saying, you guys.
Oh, that's great. I have a story too about, I remember very distinctly, I was going through a really hard time with one of these self-check panic attack moments. And it was a moment, I've talked a little bit about some of my turning points on the podcast, but this was probably one of the deepest, most serious depressions that I've ever had, and moments where everything got called into question with my faith and my religion. And it was a very, very challenging moment, and I very nearly walked away from everything. And at this point, it had become a lot to do with my life, life purpose kind of things. I was very ingrained in multiple communities working with spirit. I was having, regular sessions almost daily with people we had the podcast going. I was teaching. I was doing all these things. And I was like, I have to know for sure if this is like divinely directed. I have to know because I cannot be spreading evil. Like I cannot be spreading dissent. I cannot be an agent of darkness. Like I cannot handle that in my soul to be a deceiver of people. And so there was one particular session, and I had taken a break for a couple of weeks and done a lot of soul searching. And I had a session coming up that I knew I couldn't reschedule or move. And so my prayer kind of going into it, I had this moment with God before I was like, okay, this is the clutch moment. It comes down to right now. Show me. Like, either this is going to be amazing and I'll stay and the spirit will be here and God will speak and it'll like change my life and maybe their life, or I'm going to walk away. It comes down to this moment. And the client had no idea. Like,
So much pressure.
Yeah, I was under a lot of pressure. She was like just, coming in. I think she wanted to connect with her husband. And it was an amazing reading. And we both just were in tears the entire time, heavy emotions, so much clearing out of so many things. And it was a woman who was on the brink of ending her life. And at the end, and then she emailed me a couple days later and she was like, you saved my life. You changed my life. Like I would not be here today had we not met that night. And it was the most powerful moment because I was like, I held the gauntlet to God. I was like, all right, this is it. And what a more powerful witness of how much good that this can do for someone, right? To change the whole course of their decision-making process for the better. And not for me. It wasn't necessarily for my benefit. It was for hers. And I think that is the key, but that is also the powerful thing of like, so much good can happen if we aim this in the right way. We have to make sure we are.
Absolutely. Okay. Speaking on the topic of like continuing education and kind of moving into the teaser we we're talking about, recently I got Reiki certified and sound healing certified. And I'm excited to use these new skills. We are going to be hosting a retreat coming up.
Yeah.
In September, most likely. We are still looking at people's availability. We sent out a questionnaire. Did you get it? If not, get in touch with us and we'll send it to you.
Yeah, that is a really key piece to help us decide when and how we're going to function this. But we've had a lot of chatter from the other side about it being time to move forward with doing something live and in person as an offering. Mm-hmm. And it will most likely be central in Utah. That's where Camille is, and that's where we have a lot of resources. So it seems like it's probably the place. And an airport. A really great airport. Salt Lake's airport is massive now. It's huge. So it seems like the next logical step. So if you've ever been interested in doing something, but in person might be your vibe. People ask me all the time, actually, like, does it matter if it's like over Zoom or over the phone or digital or in person? Like, does it change anything? The answer is no, not functionally. Like, it doesn't have to be in the same physical space, but there is a magic that happens that can be somewhat more palpable when you're in person. Like, It can be a very powerful experience to have the weight of that spirit be so present in the room with you. Mm-hmm. When you have these kinds of workshops or readings or situations. So,
right. And, just the opportunity to be amongst people. You could, when you're with people, you feel their energy stronger than when you would over Zoom. And to be able to be in that community with like-minded people that are, using these gifts or wanting to learn these gifts for the higher good, like that's powerful. That's really powerful.
And building friendships, I think too. Like I said, I don't think you can overstress the importance of community in anything. Like, as someone who moves a lot
right
to different environments and has to rebuild community every single time, it's a really important thing to make you not feel isolated, to make you feel like you are validated, you are seen, and that you are free to go about doing what you would like to be doing in a joyful way. Not in like a secret, closeted, hidden,
shameful
kind of way, kind of way, right? So, and it also keeps us on track. It keeps us in where we should be going, and helps us to support each other and other people in the way that we should, and not become so self-focused, which I think is a really important balance to strike.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm excited. I'm excited to
Yeah.
be with people in person. I mean, we've done some Zooms with our community, but to hang out with you guys, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. So we're thinking a live retreat, and that will obviously have more limited slots and availability per accommodations that we can arrange, but also a workshop, which may be a little bit more reasonable as far as affordability is going to go, because we'll only have to rent one venue. It may be 1 or 2 days. Accommodations would not be included in that one, but I'm sure you could find something in the area that would be relatively reasonable. And that would be purely developmentally focused, with a heavy gospel emphasis as well. But a lot of practical application, hands-on work, meeting a lot of other people, doing super uncomfortable stuff to grow all of your gifts. Yeah, if you are interested, reach out and we can get you the survey. And the survey will list all of the different ideas of topics and learning and application things that we're thinking about going through, as well as other add-ons that we're thinking about setting up and offering as an opportunity. We may have a guest come in and do some paranormal investigation. You may have seen her before, Elisa, on the podcast. She's pro. She's got all the equipment and years of experience. And there are a lot of really great locations, active locations to do investigation safely in Utah.
Yeah.
As well as Camille's offerings of Reiki and sound baths, group readings, possible like spiritual art nights and things like that we would like to set up as well.
I'm so excited. It's going to be great. And it'll be the pioneer event. I mean, there will be more. That's the great thing about getting together in person. Like, it's easier to mobilize and create more opportunities when you're like feeling the synergy of being together. So this is just the beginning. If you can't make this one, don't worry. You're not going to miss out on so many other opportunities. So just
future offerings.
Absolutely. It's going to be good.
So thanks for joining us on this journey a little bit today, as we talked about the importance of education and development. Education, not just in the use of your gifts, but learning how to use them the right way, how to use them ethically, and gaining the knowledge that's been passed down from people practicing these things for much longer than all of us have. As always, check out our website. If you feel like you want to learn more, if you'd like to reach out, we love when our audience engages with us, ask us questions, share your stories with us. If you'd like to be on the podcast, we love guests, obviously. The workshop questionnaire is actually on the website. Camille has put that up there. So you can either send us an email or you can jump straight on that and fill that out. Give us your name and your information, and we will include you in all updates as we release and finally nail down the details of what that's going to look like.
Yeah.
The retreat itself will be first come, first serve. So if you're motivated, be motivated and get engaged with that really quickly. The workshop will have a little bit more leniency. As always, we're reachable through the website. You'll find both of our website pages there as well from the podcast website. And subscribe, and share if you know anyone with similar interests. It helps us have a broader reach to people who need to hear the good messages.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being with us today, guys. See you later.
See you next time.